Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Friday. I hope you're ready to have some fun. It's me, your Wrestling Inc. managing editor, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Friday to talk to you wonderful, wacky, colorful world of professional wrestling. It's our very good friend, TK Trinidad. TK, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, TK. We got a lot of news to get to here this Friday. Here, I'm going to pump your audio up. I don't know. I think I brought yours too far down.
Oh, I can bring mine
No,
up
you're
too.
good. I got it. Yeah, I
Okay,
got
cool.
it. I got it. I
Okay.
got it. Wow, yeah, what a smooth operation we got going here today.
Some Fridays are
Uh,
like that.
yeah, it's into the week. We're all doing our best, everybody. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, joining us in the comments section, like Antonio Garcia over here, telling us hello this Friday. You guys are welcome to jump into whatever chat room you're at, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, beyond. Just chime on in. Let us know what you're thinking here. We got a packed show, a lot of news later on in audio form. If you're listening to us in audio form, you're going to get to hear my interview with Charlie Haas. Of course, I talked to Shelton Benjamin this past weekend at the Royal Rumble Media Row in St. Louis. And I got Charlie's chance to react to what Shelton said about being open to getting the team back together, world's greatest tag team back together in WWE. Great conversation. And then at the end of the show for everybody, we'll dive in the mailbag. We're going to look at some possible big names that could be signing with AEW. But without further ado, let's get to it here. News you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. TK, Fightful is saying that word now is that general WWE morale seems to be near a decades-long low, if not an all-time low in the locker room. Are you surprised by the top line of this report here?
I'm not surprised. However, before I give my statement on that, I just want to say that, and I don't usually don't do this, but the last time we had a discussion, we talked about, Ronda Rousey, and you're like, absolutely not. And she was there. I just want to leave it there.
I didn't say that I said Ronda definitely wasn't going to be there. I don't recall
you
ever
weren't
saying.
you weren't really a fan of, it happening. So, I just wanted to point it
I
out.
never. Well, I'd just like to point out that I never said Ronda Rousey was going to the Royal Rumble. I have no idea where that came from. I did talk about how I wasn't positive on the reaction she was going to get at the Royal Rumble, and that was actually much more positive than I was expecting. I was not expecting all the fans to be here for like that. But anyway, go ahead, TK.
For the morale, I mean, I think it's been happening for a while. If you work for a company where you don't know if one day you're gonna get fired and you're gonna find out via whatever social media on a random day that you weren't expecting, and you're seeing your friends go, it's and not for negative reasons, then you're gonna feel a certain way. You're always gonna feel like you're walking on eggshells. So that's one thing. And then another thing too, if you're working for a company and you've been wanting to work for this company for a long time, and you're seeing in the past that these people had great storylines and you had all these hopes and dreams, and all you do is give these people your storylines, and it never gets used. You're never on air. You're never, you're rarely on air, and when you are, it's just for a minimal time. Like, that's you're not going to feel great about that, especially as something that you've been wanting to do your whole entire life. It's not like one of those 9 to 5 jobs and you're like, I hate it here. It's like you wanted to wrestle and now you're finally here. Because no matter what, for the people who love AEW or WWE or whatever, WWE is the top. They're the top company right now. And so you're there, you're in it, and you're not getting used how you feel like you're getting used. So you're always going to feel a certain way.
Yeah, well, the low morale, according to Fightful, also reportedly ranges from talents who are rarely on TV to those who are regularly in the main events, from new wrestlers to veterans, all experiencing a decrease in morale. One longtime talent reportedly said they feel like nothing matters outside of maybe 4 people. Several other main roster talents pointed out issues with continuity and nobody else being designed to do anything. It was also said that several wrestlers feel like they're without a voice and are reduced to making pleas on social media. One wrestler said in the time they've been with WWE, they've never felt less heard, and their attempts to speak to Vince McMahon go unheard, are met with haste, or sometimes seemingly so the other way out of spite based on their recommendations. This is interesting, as many former talents have commented on how accessible Vince has been over the years. Now, there is also some frustration of several contradictory decisions being made in recent months, which have reversed course to something the talent had already pitched and had denied. One WWE talent reportedly stated, "If you see a complaint with merit and a good faith about something that lacks sense, logic, or continuity, I almost guarantee we have complained too. It just never changes anything." The Rumble on Saturday was a major point of frustration, but not the only one. There are also some wrestlers who believe WWE will eventually sell the company. One wrestler who believes the sale is going to happen said that that's the only way they could possibly rationalize some of the decision making. All right, well, there it is. A lot more splayed on the table there. And yeah, I agree. I mean, none of this makes any sense for me unless you're trying to just kind of strip the company down as much as you can to make it seem appealing to some kind of outside buyer that's going to come along here in the next couple of years to just take the whole thing outright. Pretty sad,
Right.
hollow, vapid place by that description. I feel bad even like describing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's no longer like how WWE started versus what it is now. It's a business. The wrestling part is secondary. And having I have another company and having investors interested in the company, they want to see all the numbers, and they want an investor more wants to come in to make a few changes to make more money versus come in and they're not making as much money, or they take over and now they have to strip it. If it's stripped already, now somebody can come in and try to make it better. So I think people, for the love of wrestling, it's not that anymore, and it hasn't been
No.
like that for a while.
No, this is a pretty straightforward capitalist endeavor now. And
Hmm.
I do feel like, maybe people's passions and wants and whims are just like irrelevant at the moment, just because, maybe they don't want a soulful company at the moment. They don't want to ask a lot of people asking questions. They want a lot of people, making decisions. They
Hmm.
want people that are just going to do marching orders, because right now the company is doing record business. Of course, the Q4 2022 year-end earnings call was yesterday. WWE reported over $1 billion in revenue from 2021, from 2021. And man, yeah, $1 billion. First time ever. They're seeing an uptick here in the stock market today. People coming
Hmm.
back on board. And I think these rumors of a sell really helping the company's bottom line out right now. And Nick Khan saying maybe we're going to do more than 2 Saudi shows a year. That probably helped him out as
Right.
well. Yeah.
And you also have to remember too, when you report revenue, they're not reporting how much they owe to other companies. So you might owe $1 billion, but you might have $1 billion numbers wise, but you might owe half of that to various companies or various individuals who are contract workers and stuff like that. Like they never that number is so it's cute, it looks great, but there's so many other moving parts to it. And again, it's still $1 billion, but it's not $1 billion liquid cash. Like if Vince was like, I want my $1 billion today, let me just take it all out. That's not happening. So, the number is great, but it's all the other nuances that, WWE is probably not going to release to us.
Well,
That
there's a
see.
really detailed breakdown of all their investments. I mean, this breakdown goes down, breaks down everything, not just including the finances that are involved, where it's coming from and where it's going, but also like
Hmm.
mentioning lawsuits that they're tied up in. It's really the first time they've had to put pen to paper and discuss what's going on with the MLW lawsuit, which they were kind of dismissive of, saying, sometimes we just wind up in these wacky lawsuits, So there is like a bunch of it's a pretty thick menu you could go through for all the items about what's going in and out of that company financially right now. So,
Yeah.
and it's given people, that are in the business community reason to look at WWE more bullishly. I mean, when the revenue is going up year after year right now to a point that they've never seen, I mean, $1 billion like that. I mean, it's definitely a good sign for them, and they can point to various places right now. They've certainly stripped away expenses, especially compared to 5 years ago when they were doing like 5 shows a week and hemorrhaging money on the live event market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, financial stuff out of the way. Fightful reporting here that Goldberg set to return to storyline soon, possibly as soon as tonight. That came out just before we were on the air. Also from them, and he's going to be wrestling at the Elimination Chamber. Current plan is to have Goldberg challenge Universal Champion Roman Reigns with the title on the line. The match was originally scheduled for WrestleMania 36 in 2020, but of course Reigns had to withdraw due to COVID-19, the pandemic. The Observer now saying that there's a feeling within creative that Vince is going to make the call to go with title versus title, Lesnar and Reigns. That explains why he's putting Lesnar inside this chamber, which would mean that Bobby Lashley's championship reign and possible main event WrestleMania match is heavily in doubt. How do you feel about this one, TK?
I mean, it goes back to the first story that we had. So say you're on the road, you're doing all the shows, and no offense to Goldberg, but it's like now you bring somebody from the outside. Like I couldn't imagine how I would feel. And like I get, storylines and stuff like that, but they have even with the cuts that they did all last year, they have enough people where they can make relevant storylines, but you have to build them up. And again, this period between now and WrestleMania, it's kind of too late for that. But again, for somebody who you see the lineup, you want to see other wrestlers have their moment, especially if they're doing all those live shows and they're putting in the time. It's just kind of frustrating to me because like you see them doing social media and stuff like that, but you don't see them with the big events. You don't see them as much on the pay-per-views. You don't even see them as much on TV. So it's frustrating in that aspect. As far as Bobby Lashley, I already kind of, once he had it, I knew it felt like it was just this is a placeholder for something else. Like
Sure.
it didn't feel legitimate. It didn't feel like, okay, he's gonna have a legitimate run, which is unfortunate. And again, going back to the first story, it's just like how would you feel? Like there's storylines, so obviously we all know that, but like how would you feel like you finally have your moment and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're doing all that stuff, and it's like no, this is for a few weeks.
Hey, if I'm Bobby Lashley, I feel like I've overachieved, right? They didn't think that he was ever going to get the match with Brock Lesnar. He got the match with Brock Lesnar, actually managed to pin Brock Lesnar despite Hooker Crook, right? And now he's going to have a chance to go over to Saudi Arabia, make a ton of money, and do this Elimination Chamber match. And, look, am I happy about Bobby Lashley possibly losing the title here at the Chamber? No. I think Bobby Lashley definitely deserves better than that. And I think there's absolutely ways you could have gotten to what you want to do with Lesnar and Roman without having to involve that title or Bobby Lashley for that matter.
Right.
At least him having to drop the title back to Brock. No, but I found Bobby. I don't feel terrible at this situation. I mean, it seems like what's the booking going to be in the Chamber? You're going to have all these guys in there. If he's the first one in there and it takes three guys, like literally, grating him like cheese through the steel to a point where it's like, obvious, like throw him through the roof or something like that. I don't know. Get creative, something dramatic, to really send him off in style and make it. There's a lot of ways you could work yourself out of that one. I don't doubt that by SummerSlam next year, there's a good chance Bobby Lashley isn't back in the main event picture. I think the fact they put the title on him twice is actually a pretty good indicator that they probably look at this guy as somebody that they're going to keep in that picture for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, he's definitely circling around. He didn't, roll back down to the bottom. But again, it's just, this is more of me, the fan. It's like, okay, well, like give him a chance so he can, him and MVP together is just such a great pairing. And I would love to see him just kind of go through the locker room. So, but everybody plays a role. Everybody plays a role. Not everybody can be LeBron James. So that's also another thing that I just kind of, rationale too.
Well, and Goldberg has said that he only has one more match on his WWE contract. So whatever it was going to be would look to be whatever he's going to be doing to wrap up for the time being. And so this would be it, unless they figured out something else. Goldberg coming in, doing the honors to Roman Reigns, something he was supposed to have done, I guess, a couple of years back. Is this the best use of Goldberg? What is the best use of Goldberg, right? Like if you're going to use it one more time, having to put over Roman Reigns, whatever. I don't have a particular issue with that one.
Really, and is it really one more time too? Because it's just like Sean. I'm sure Sean's told you this too. It's just kind of like you have a certain amount of bumps, and then you get to a point where you do your greatest hits, and you can coast on that for a while. So it's kind of like what's it called? Soap operas. Like, do they really die, or they always come back? So it's one more time on his contract, but
Oh yeah,
we'll
I'm not saying Goldberg couldn't come back, but I mean he's plus 50 now, and I don't know. I feel like Bill's time. I don't see him like a Sting type character. I mean, Sting can wear shirts and spandex and makeup and mask a lot of the effects of aging very, very well.
Mhm.
Goldberg unfortunately cannot do that. And it's no secret that Goldberg's work has just not been stellar here in the past couple years. There's been a couple scary moments, and maybe he didn't really ever seem like when he came back, he wanted to be here as long as he has been. I remember him when he initially came back talking about how hard it was to get the weight back on because he had trimmed down so much and looked like that Goldberg character. It's a lot of work. I don't know. This may be it for Bill. I'm not positive on that one.
We'll see. Money talks.
All right, TK. Well, thank you for talking all the news of the day up top with me. We actually have some big news here to go to. I wanted to save time for the mailbag today because it's a very exciting time for possible free agents over in AEW. But before we get to this, Charlie Haas, thank you so much. For everybody who's listening in audio form, hope you enjoyed that conversation with Charlie. And if you're watching us in video form right now, head on over to the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. You can check that out. Nice 20 minutes of me and Charlie Haas just talking him and wrestling. So today's poll question stems from a Wrestling Observer report saying Keith Lee has been talked about for a spot in AEW. He may have already agreed to a contract. Tony Khan teasing a newsworthy announcement tonight on AEW Rampage, and also confirmed on Busted Open today that the Forbidden Door is open and that he is looking to sign some big name free agents here this year. First of all, what do you think about Keith Lee possibly moving to AEW? You think he's a good fit for the company?
Yes, whether they use him correctly, that's always the caveat. That's the thing. It's like I feel like he would be great, great talent. If they let him be who he wants to be versus how they write for some people. That's kind of the thing. It's just like you never know. It's like we see this on WWE all the time. At one point where you have talent come from NXT to the main roster, and it's just kind of like their NXT character was just so amazing, and they just stripped them down to them barely being on TV. So it's just essentially what they do with him. I think he would be great there. It just what they do with him as a talent.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's all about booking. And, Keith Lee would be a big man in that company. There are not a lot of guys of his size. I mean, Lance Archer is a big guy. Wardlow is a big guy. Brian Cage is somewhere. Powerhouse Hobbs gets called in on occasion.
Right.
A big man actually getting a push in AEW would be a change of pace.
Right. And then Keith Lee has a different personality. Like he's a big guy, but he's also like a lovable guy. And you have like the kid factor. Like there's so many things that, I feel like, WWE was kind of almost there in like his character on the main roster. They just didn't get, budget cuts. So if they do something like that, that'd be great. Or he might have something totally different that he wants to do, and we see a whole different version of Keith Lee, which would be amazing too. So it really just depends, like the booking. But seeing him again on a platform like AEW, I think would be great.
Well, I asked everybody, who do you think is going to be AEW's next big name signing? Keith Lee, Killer Cross Scarlett, or Bray Wyatt? About 300 votes here. Blow away, I'm sure, based on the news of the day, 64% to Keith Lee, but 17-8 to Bray Wyatt and 16-4 to Killer Cross and Scarlett. I'm actually really surprised by this because I thought the Bray Wyatt to AEW rumors had really died down. I wanted to see how lively they were there. I would have thought for sure people would have thought Cross and Scarlett were more likely to pop up in AEW than Wyatt at the moment. What do you glean from that? What should we take away from this?
I feel like if you didn't watch NXT, then you're not as familiar with Killer Cross and Scarlett. So it's just kind of like the transition. It's the people who what the majority of people watch. I think they would be a great addition to AEW as well. Like if they utilize them correctly. It's just one of those things too. They need they're adding women to the roster because I'm a big advocate for female wrestlers. They're adding women to the roster, but they're not necessarily using them correctly. So if they get there, I don't think they'll be. I think they might use Keith Lee more than Killer Cross and Scarlett.
It's just
I feel like it's not going to work out.
Packed over there right now, and like Adam Cole's just another guy over there right now, which I guess is not terrible considering he was going to be like a manager on the main roster of WWE. But there are there are main name players right now just kind of wandering around AEW
Yeah.
at the moment. I wonder what it looks like when you toss more big names into the mix. It's getting to be pretty
Yeah.
flush over there, you know?
And the good part is that they can go to other promotions too. So, you can do the Forbidden Door, you can do the Impact, you can do, ROH is coming back, you can do indie shows, stuff like that. So you can it's kind of a catch-22. It's like a freelancer versus a 9 to 5 or on contract. You
Sure.
can make the best out of it and angle it how you want to, and you have the say in the majority of it, or you're at somewhere like WWE and you're not happy. So it really just depends on your comfortability and what you're willing to either way you're giving away something, so what you're willing to take.
Yeah. Well, I like Darth Neural over on Twitter. He suggested maybe Dalton Castle could be the next big name signing at AEW. Certainly another guy just kind of adrift out there where it's like, that guy's got a gimmick. That guy is over and connects with people. I think a Dalton Castle in AEW would certainly pop.
Right. Or like with these signings, it just feels like you said, it's stacked over there. So
Right.
why can we not have more, like I think, and I don't know if wrestlers really would agree to this, but more limited time contracts. So it's just like this person's here for 6 months for this particular storyline, versus they're on the roster and you just never know when they're gonna get used. Like I would more prefer that, but again, you're getting a contract to be on a roster and you can go on a whole bunch of other rosters too, so it's money in the pocket. But just as a creative, I would rather that, because then I know I'm going to be used and utilized.
Yeah. Well, MCAS Pierce saying, for what it's worth, Adam Cole's ranked #1. He's going to wrestle for the world title at Revolution, which I don't know that that's been announced or made official or anything like that. He's not just a guy, but hey, it certainly looks like the Lance Archer stuff is going to wind up wrapped up ahead of Revolution. So Adam
Mhm.
Cole versus Adam Page doesn't seem like out of the question. Certainly could happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, we want a lot of things to happen. It's just time, which they do have, and just the correct bookings and utilizing people. I think in the era that we are now for WWE to get to the point where we're now frustrated with the bookings, AEW is getting to our frustration faster because we have access to social media and because we have access to all these little nuances. So there is going to be a point, whether it's a year or 2 years or 3 years from now, that AEW is going to look at the bottom line and a lot of people are going to be cut like WWE did as well. And, they're going to go back to hopefully the storylines. Like I prefer, and again, this is me as the wrestling fan. No wrestler wants to be let go, but I prefer you have a nice, great roster that you actually utilize so we can actually enjoy those storylines, versus you seeing your favorite wrestler get signed and then you might see them for 2 seconds every other week.
All right. Well, hey, we'll put a pin in it there for today, everybody. I'll be back on Monday. I'm going to be joined by Michael Weissman to start the week off. Also on Monday, we're going to air the audio from my Royal Rumble Media Row interview with Dewdrop. Finally, supposed to do it earlier this week. Things got bumped around. But of course, the Wrestling Inc. Daily. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms. Comments, ratings, all that stuff helps. Support WrestlingInc.com. It's on all your favorite socials. And of course, come back here tonight after SmackDown for the Wrestling Inc. podcast. It's a lot like this show, only at night with some different people. All right, TK, anything else you want to put over here before we wrap up the show today?
Yeah, we are celebrating Black History Month on Women's Wrestling Talk. So definitely go to www.talkpod.com. We have an article dropping every single day on different Black female wrestlers. We also have panel shows coming up pretty much every week. So definitely go to www.talkpod.com or go to www.talkpod on all social media platforms. So just a lot of education there, stuff that you might not have known. So so you can really fall in love with wrestling even more. So, and you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad.
Awesome. And I'm at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Remember, if you winked,